All right. I don't know if this is working. I know it's at least recording audio, so podcast people, you'll at least get a podcast. I don't know if this is working. We are trying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's what I'm talking about. Currently, allegedly, right at this second, I'm streaming on two platforms. I'm both on Twitch and YouTube, thanks to Restream.io, who's not sponsoring this, because I also don't know if it's working. But either way, we're trying it. Who knows? We'll find out together. I am hella nervous. So it seems like it's not crashing. So, that's good. But all the same, so far so good, right? Tonight, we've got just a pile of 13 questions. They should be pretty good, plus the questions of those people as per usual. And I'm excited. The questions are going to be great. They're going to be bangers all the way around. Super pumped. Just a little nervous about, getting the tech side of things done. But, hey, by the way, I don't know if you can hear this, but literally just out the window, there's like some kind of like law enforcement event going on. There's like a car chase of some kind going up and down the highway with a fire truck or something. It's like a whole thing. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is really, really distracting. So we'll just hope that the people got away from the swine, and then we'll move on with our day. This is also the last stream of November. Next week's December, and we'll move towards the end of the year. And oh man, I do want to point out that if you're following the daily podcast, we transition starting tomorrow from NaNoWriMo, which finished today, to Fioshimo. And if you're totally new to all that, it gets covered in audio starting tomorrow. You'll get it. When does it go out? 12:15, just 15 minutes after midnight, I think is when I have it scheduled. So, yeah, there's that. I have no other announcements. I have no other sponsors. If you ever listening to this want to get an ad on this thing, just drop me a note sometime. johnhelpsyouwritebetter@gmail.com. Drop me a note. I'll be happy to work something out with you. My pleasure. All right, let's do this thing, shall we? Here we go.
All right. Just remember what I've taught you.
What the fuck is that?
Hey, yo.
All right. It looks like it's working. I'm trying to lean over here to see, and it seems like everything's going okay. So, hi. I got to put on one light. Hang on. I got to do a thing. There we go. So now I'm lit. All right, there we are. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here. Why did that light not turn on automatically? I'll deal with that later. Anyway, hello. Hi. Hello, YouTube. Streaming currently, and hello Twitch, also streaming currently. I don't see any sense that everything is a disaster and a hot mess, so that's good. I'll take that. The camera's still glitchy, but that's because I'm running out of USB ports. Anyway, hi. Let's do the intro, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, doers, dreamers, planners, plotters, thinkers, expositors, gamers, game players, enthusiasts, anybody who's ever found like a really, really nice pair of sweatpants, sock owners, cat petters, anybody who's ever been like that friend for your friend group, anybody who's enjoyed a good cup of hot cocoa, people who've had really good butt days, nacho lovers, soap makers, candlestick makers. Is that still a thing? Are people still making candlesticks? Bakers, cookie enthusiasts, dieters, exercisers, and most importantly, the comrades. Welcome to the Writers Chat for 11:30, the very last Wednesday of November. Through no fault of my own, I continue to be John Adamus. I'm here to help you write better. If this is the first time you're checking this out, and it's very possible that you are, hi, I'm a writing coach. I've been doing this job of helping people write better for about 20-something years. And tonight, I've got 13 questions, plus the questions of anybody over there in chat. Multiple chats happening all at once. In theory, they should be able just to post questions. It'll show up over there on that screen, and we'll get those questions as well as the 13 questions I've got prepared from all across social media, and we'll, see what happens tonight. We do this every Wednesday. It's good to be here. I have no ads. I have no sponsors. Let's see what happens. Shall we get started? Shall we just dive in? Let's do that. Here we go. Question number one. Question number one. What can I do if I'm struggling with how to end my draft? Learning to finish things is the second most important skill you can have as a writer, the first being knowing when to start. That's sort of tied with, knowing how to continue, but I'm going to argue that learning how to finish is huge, because so many writers get caught up in the idea of, I'll just keep going and I'll finish it later, and they push the ending off over and over and over, and then you end up with like monster-sized manuscripts that have like 3 or 4 different plots and a whole pile of stuff going on, and it's just, hello, hi, thank you for coming in. Just an absolute pile of stuff happening, and the thing's bloated and it's a mess, and it comes from not being able to know when to stop. So this is a really, really critical skill. You have to know when your end point is. This is why we outline. This is why we talk through and figure out, like, the story only has to go from point A to point B, not point A to point Q over there. And keeping it organized and keeping it on track matters. So if you're struggling to end your draft, let's talk about some reasons why you're having trouble ending it. Is it because, A, you don't know what the ending is? If that's the case, guess what you have to do? You got to sit down and think about what the ending is. Good, bad, otherwise, everything in between, okay? That means you're going to have to, if you don't know, sit down and map it out. Well, what if it went this way? What if it went that way? Do the good guys win? Does the bad guys win? Do the bad guys win? Does the volcano blow up? Do the aliens attack? Whatever it is, figure out the ending from a narrative sense. You should know what your ending is by the time you sit down to really dive into the draft. Now, if you've had a preconceived notion, like you expected the story to go one way, but in the course of writing it's gone another, that's fine. But from a narrative sense, you need to know what that ending is, all right? It's a big deal. Find it. Figure it out. Now, that's just option number one. Option number two is you're having trouble ending your draft because you're scared of what the next steps are. Because you're scared that means you have to publish it, or that means you have to query it, or that means you have to submit it somewhere, or that means you have to do something with it that is slightly out of your control, while also opening you up to like judgment or rejection. And it makes sense, but it's not entirely true or accurate, because you don't have to immediately go off and submit your thing. Let's say you finish it today. Today's Wednesday at the time I'm recording this. It doesn't mean like you finish Wednesday, you have to go like start querying on Thursday, or you have to go rush it out to Amazon or whatever on Thursday morning. You don't. You really don't. You're in charge. You are in charge of when you submit things and how things go. That's all on you. If you're nervous about the next steps, I have 2 pieces of advice for you. 1, take a break. Take a break. How big? I don't know. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Take a week. Take the weekend. Just detach yourself from what you've done. Now, if this was a draft and it's like your first draft or your second draft, and you know you're not yet at a point where you're publishing, but you know that there's another draft coming and you're worried that it's going to be just as long or it's just going to be as complicated or even more so, let's just address that real quick. It's not. It's not. Every draft is different. And just because the previous draft, the one you're struggling to finish, took you X number of days, weeks, months, and years, does not mean that all of a sudden the next draft is going to take that long or longer. Every draft is different. You've got to give yourself a chance to see that. If you are wrapping this thing up to publish it, you can take a break. Go ahead. Also, if you're moving from this draft to the next draft, you could take a break then too. A little bit of a break is good. You don't have to immediately jump into the next step. Eventually, you're going to have to. But it's not like, a short window, and it's not a window out of your control. If that's not the case and you're having trouble ending your draft because you can't make any decisions about, well, what if I go this way and what if I go that way and what about this and what about that, you have to remember that writing is the act of making decisions. So make some decisions. Choose. There's no wrong answer. I really can't make that any clearer. You're the one writing this thing, whatever it is. Whatever you say it is, that's how it is. Don't worry about what you are worried somebody's going to give like a 2-star review to 2 years from now. Don't worry about, well, somebody somewhere. I don't care. It's not about what somebody over there might like or might not like. It's about what you want. So if you're writing your story and you're in charge of that writing, how do you want to end things? Do you want a big thing, a little thing, a lot of little things? Is this like a Return of the King kind of vibe where we're going to have like 4 different endings stapled next to each other? What are you doing? How are you doing it? Make some decisions and then just end it. It does not, I can't stress this enough. It does not have to be perfect. It just needs to be ended. Just end it. Just go all the way through all your scenes. Go all the way through your narrative progression. Make sure you tie up your loose ends. It doesn't need to be perfect. If there's stuff you forgot, hey, guess what? We can fix that. If it's rushed or hasty, hey, we can address that later. Just finish it. And then we'll tweak it and polish it and fix it and fill it out and make it better next. But for now, just finish. Figuring out what you're struggling with and then getting kind of stuck in that space, like, oh, I struggle making decisions, so I'm going to take 6 weeks and really learn the psychology of decisions. That's a great way to never finish. You're just looking for one place to stall or distract yourself. Don't do that either. Super not helpful. What you want to do instead is just focus and finish. One step at a time. A paragraph, a sentence, a page, a chapter. Whatever size scale you need to work at, go work at it. But that's how you get through your ending. Put your butt in the chair, put your fingers on the keys, and goddamn write your story. Okay? Great first question. On to the next. What's an objective, question number 2. What's an objective measure of success when it comes to writing? Do you have any idea how often this comes up? Do you have any idea? I hear this all the damn time. I hear this from people who were published already. This is not like a new thing. I hate to tell you this, though. There are no objective measures of success. None. Because anything you could bring up, just being published, selling a certain number, making a certain amount of money, having a book deal, selling the rights, getting it translated, getting into paperback, whatever you can think of that's an objective measure of success that you would say is a measure of success, there's somebody else out there, I swear it, somebody else out there is going to say that's not enough. For you, it might be, well, just getting signed, getting representation and publishing traditionally is enough. That's how I measure success. If you've done that, you've succeeded. If you've not done that, you're not a success. And there's somebody else who's going to turn around and go, I wrote my first draft. I've never finished a first draft in my life. And they're going to say that's a measure of success. And somebody else is going to say, well, I used to have a blank page and now I have 10,000 words. That's a measure of success. All success, every single piece of success in any creative process is subjective because it's your process, because it's your goal. I think everybody wants a really codified set of criteria so they can figure out where they rank or how we measure up. And the frustration for a lot of writers comes in when that's not possible because people started at different times. You're not going to out-compete somebody who's got a 10-book, 20-year career ahead of you. You're not going to be able to catch up. It's just not possible. You can eventually have a 10-year career with 20 books or whatever, but you're not there now. You just started. You're not going to quickly race to beat somebody who sold 1 million copies of something in their whole estate because you just started today. Your measures of success have to be subjective. There's nothing wrong with that, though. If you're setting measures of success that are too small, like you're going to say, a win is just like one new word on the page, when you know you're capable of doing more than that, when you know like you're just sandbagging and taking a shortcut because you just want it done because you don't really want to challenge or push yourself, well, that's a different issue for, a deeper discussion for sure. But by and large, all measures of success are self-determined. So if you call it a thing of success, that's for you. Other people can disagree. It's the internet. Of course they'll disagree. But by and large, hey, this is how it is. It's going to be just fine. I think the other hard part when it comes to objective versus subjective measure is that we want parity. We want to know that when we're objectively measuring success, everybody gets the same stuff. We all get the same book deals. We all get the same representation quality. We all get the same paycheck. We all make this, and that's never going to happen. Now, partially, that's because the system isn't designed to be equal, and partially, it's people with the money are never going to want it to be equal. That's not how this works. Get in the habit of giving yourself subjective measures and having those be good enough. Don't worry about the input of other people who are going to be all like, well, that's not enough. If it were me, great. If it were you, then it were you, and other people can do whatever. But for you here right now, set your own measures for success, chase them relentlessly, and then go on to the next one over and over and over until you get where you want to be, wherever that is. What a fantastic question. Oh, man. Wow. A third question that's like chewy and spicy. Question number 3, do you self-sabotage? What can I do if I self-sabotage? Hi, I'm John. I self-sabotage. I am a notorious self-sabotager. The number of things I have started and train wrecked, whether we're talking about work stuff or personal stuff or life stuff or job stuff or friend stuff or anything, I self-sabotage because I feel I'm not good enough for the things I want, but I still want them. Maybe that's why you self-sabotage. Maybe you self-sabotage because you're afraid that the next 3, 5, 10, 20, or maybe just the next step are out of your control. Maybe you're self-sabotaging because you really want praise or validation from a person and they're always denying it. I don't know. There's like a billion reasons. That's what therapy is for. But yeah, I self-sabotage. Am I working on it? Yes. Is it easy? No, not even close to easy, but it's doable. It's good. It's worth it. If you find yourself self-sabotaging, I'm going to try not to use the word self like a million times in this. If you find yourself sabotaging all your efforts or some of your efforts or even one of your efforts, I'm not a therapist. I can't give you like the magic Rubik's Cube twist and turn answer that's going to unlock in your brain. All I can do is get you to think. All I can do is get you to evaluate, and then you can take that information where you need to. If you're self-sabotaging, you need to know why. Are you scared? Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you tired? Do you feel not good enough? Do you wish things were different? Are you worried about something? Like, find that primal core reason. And step 1, identify it. Here's why I have train wrecked my last 5 projects. Here's why I never seem to get myself past 25,000 words. Here's why I've never pulled the trigger on that purchase. Here's why I've never asked that person out. Here's why I've never done this, that, or whatever the other thing is, right? Find that reason. And then, through hook, crook, or otherwise, see if you can figure out a way to disprove the notion underneath it. Like, I self-sabotage because I feel I'm not good enough. Because I don't have like a big fat bank account. I don't have like clients out the door. I don't have a million things pending for me. I'm struggling to get by. So that verifies for me that I'm not good enough. So I sabotage everything. So I live down to that expectation, right? I don't want anybody to do that. I don't want to do that. Hang on. Is lazy a primal sabotage thing? Yeah, lazy's totally a sabotage thing. Because there have to be cases, Jay, where you're motivated. You can't, maybe you're universally and completely lazy. Like in everything you do, minimal effort all the way across, not just being creative. If that's the case, then the pursuit for you, the noble quest for you, would be to go hunt down what it is that makes you not lazy. Because there has to be something. But if you're, in terms of your writing or your creativity, just like, I can't be fucking bothered with this, whatever, that's pretty core, because there's something about that that's allowing you to persist in that space. For me, with self-sabotage, it's living down to that expectation. So what I have to do is the scary stuff like this, where I'm streaming on 2 platforms, or I've got this set up and that set up, and there's all these extra new things running at the same time. And I'm in the middle of thinking in the back of my head, like, oh God, if this crashes, I got to do this and that and the other. And then tomorrow I got to do all, like, there's a ton of stuff, and I keep my head spinning and busy, and it keeps me distracted. So I'm not so focused. So I find reasons to fuck my shit up. I don't want you to go through that. I don't want you to have to do that. Find that core reason, and then figure out if there's something or things you can do, some avenues to take, some challenge you can overcome, some obstacle, some path through an obstacle where you can prove to yourself that you're not solely defined by that fear, by that thing, whatever it is. I can't guarantee total success. I can't say that I'll wipe it away magically one time, every time. But it's at least a start, and you can at least leverage and wiggle your way like a tooth in a loose kid's tooth. You wiggle it until it comes out. You can wiggle this until you're free of it. Self-sabotage, I think, holds so many writers back, whether it's telling themselves that they'll never get published, or defining success. Remember, we just talked about it a second ago, defining success on such a narrow scope. I've got to be published in this way by this person and rep by this person, and I've got to make this much money. That, much like really specific search results, like the number of returns is real narrow. You're making it harder for yourself. Why? It's not, if it comes down to, well, I just think I'm stupid, you're wrong. Sorry, you're just wrong. You're not as stupid as you think. You're just not. Look at all the number of things you do. All of them, not just the creative stuff. Like, you survive a hellscape of a dying civilization every day. A stupid person wouldn't. And if you're lazy, what would motivate you? How much do you need to change? Does it feel out of your control or in your control? What's one change you could make? If it's a billion things that have to change, you got to start somewhere. Pick one. Change it. See what happens. But that idea sticks with us. So be ever vigilant. Be aware. Be sensitive. Try your best. Understand that it's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect, but you do have to make an effort. What an amazing question. Are there any questions from the, unfortunately, unknown number of people I have in chat? Because I used to have a number. There used to be a number that floats. I'm moving my mouse like you can see it. That doesn't do you any good. But there's a little cursor that shows up and tells me how many people. And now, because I'm on multiple platforms, I don't have that. So instead, unknown number of people out there. Hi. Do you have any questions about anything? Would you like to know tonight's tea? It's really tame. It's just Barry's Irish, because it came in a box. It was a gift from somebody. It's good, no doubt. It's delicious, but it's not any of my usual fancy ones. Any questions though? About anything? Publishing, writing, marketing, me, business, any writing thing, any word thing, any media thing. Lay it on me. I'm all ears. I don't know if in the processing of this, there's an extra delay. Normally there's like a 5 to 7 second. I don't know if that's longer now, but we'll hang out for a hot minute. I'll get another mouthful of water or tea or whatever I reach for, and we'll go from there. Cool? Cool. Okay. Shall we? On we go. Yes, I'm in 2 places. I'm doing all right. I'm a little nervous. This is a lot. This is one of those big, like, John's taking a risk kind of things, but I'm doing good. I did, in my nervousness, spill dinner all over my usual hoodie, so I grabbed the cardigan. but I'm doing good. It's been an all right day. I'm pretty pumped. It's been a good one. I also noticed, you can't tell, but I'm looking at the comments here. They're color coded so that I know who's who. That's a pretty awesome realization. Here's a question. What was the last thing I read that I really enjoyed on a personal level? What an amazing question. It was a book by a guy named Anthony Horowitz called Magpie Murders. I enjoyed it on a deeply personal level because it's just a good quality story. And I didn't have to do anything with it for work. It's not for Patreon. It's not for a newsletter. It's not for a client. It was just, hey, I'm going to read this book. And yep, it was really, really good. I have to make time to do more of that because so much of what I consume is for work. Tomorrow, for instance, I'm recording The Hobbit, the first of the 3 movies. That's like my entire day because it's a long-ass movie. And I don't think I'm going to enjoy it because it's like detailed and crunchy. Enjoyment for me requires me to like unplug all the work stuff, not think about like, oh, that's the character arc, and oh, here's this beat, and here's this twist, and here's the progression of the story. If I were charting it out, all this stuff I give to clients. For me, when I just read, or mostly I listen, I'm an audiobook dude. Mostly when I just listen, I just literally, there's a big ass couch right there. I just lay on that couch with either headphones on or, whatever. And I just stare into space and listen to a book. It's great. I should do more of that, actually. What a wonderful question. Thank you for asking. Here's question number 4. Whew. Why do so many writers hide behind the idea of perfection to keep themselves from making progress? So apparently we've stumbled into therapy this evening. Here we go. Let's take a shot at this question. Because perfection's really, really unattainable, and there's a lot of room to fall short and a lot of room to keep yourself from moving forward. Because if I say whatever I'm writing has to be perfect before I move forward, I'm pretty much guaranteeing I never have to move forward because I can always retweak it. I can always say something different. I can always rewrite it. I can always change this or bring this or what about this or what about that. And I'll never have to finish. So I'll never have to confront that worry about finishing. So I'll never have to confront my feelings about whatever the next steps are or the anxiety I have about what happens after the steps. I don't have to deal with that if I keep finding reasons to, like we talked about in the first question, not finish. And building up perfection and using that as your sole criteria to like move forward, that's just another way of hiding from your ending. And it'll kill your creativity in the long term because you'll get frustrated and you'll get resentful and you'll get, agitated by the process because you'll either tell yourself that it's getting worse and worse and you'll keep tinkering with it and you'll be less and less satisfied with the results. Or you'll always find something to critique and you'll be more critical than creative. And you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot or burning out. I think it's really popular to do that, though, because of a couple of reasons. One, social media. Social media is an opportunity for everybody to talk about the perfect they maybe don't have. You get to present your stylized, idealized life, be it through camera filters or simple short TikToks or just weird posts or whatever, and you get to evaluate the quality of what you just said based on the response you get, how many likes you got, how many hearts, how many thumbs up, that kind of thing. And that, I think, trains us on some level to ignore reality and say like, oh, well, when I talk about things in this direction, when I talk about it only in the positive or only this one way, I get a better response than when I say this other stuff that's maybe less cheerful or less good. It might be more real, but it's different. And different doesn't get me that response. And I like this response. So I'm going to lean in the positive. I'm going to lean that one way. And they apply that same strategy to work. If it's perfect, people will like it without fail. And I won't have to deal with rejection. I won't have to deal with anxiety. I won't have to deal with stress because it'll be perfect. Everybody likes perfect. And again, we turn the subjective thing into an objective thing, right? Like this idea of perfect, this big universal, everybody agrees to it, right? It's not a thing. Here, you want to double check me? You want to prove me? What's the perfect dinner? I'll wait. Go ahead. Talk to your monitor. Talk to your podcast. What's the perfect dinner? What's the perfect gift? Go ahead. I'll wait. I got tea to drink. It's cool. This idea of perfection we use to isolate and separate ourselves from the stuff we can't control, because we can control it not being perfect. There's always another draft. There's always another thing. There's always more I can do. I can do this. I can do that. And perfect keeps us insulated from having to move forward. We seek the perfect partner, so we're really dismissive of the people around us. We seek the perfect things, so we talk shit about the stuff we got. We seek the perfect draft, so we constantly rewrite and never finish. But here's the thing about perfect. It's imperfect. It is. It just always is. And the best perfect things are the imperfect things that are perfect for you in the moment. Perfection is imperfection. So you're looking for the perfect draft. It's the one with the mistakes that make you the happiest. It's the one that maybe, you could have written it differently, but you're digging this. You're good with it. If you rewrote it, it would feel totally different, and you don't want to lose that. You know, the people around you, maybe they're fuck-ups. I don't know who you hang out with. It's up to you. But they're perfect for you where you're at. And if they're not, change it. Perfection is a distancing tool. It keeps us way away from the goal. And I think we do it because we're scared of what happens after we hit the goal. Oh my God, I'm done. I have to publish. You don't. Oh my God, I have to get reviews. No, you don't. Oh my God, I got to hire an editor. Yes, you should hire an editor. But at the same time, like, you don't have to rush out and do that. You can take your time. You can ask more questions in a chat. You can hunt down more advice. You have absolute freedom to do whatever the hell you want. This is your art. Make it how you like. But that does not mean it only has to be perfect. It's not just garbage or perfect. It's, I made this and I'm cool with it being in the world, or I'm not done yet. Those are your pools to swim in. Don't forget you can't just stay in one pool forever. You got to eventually come to that point where you take a risk, where you say, hey, this is the best I can do relative to the experience I have right now, and go from there. But I think so many people hide because it's easier than moving forward. It's less scary. And you get to be frustrated on the internet about it. That's always nice, right? Good question. On we go. Question number 5. How do I get reviewed? I have to laugh because when I get this question DM'd to me on, was it Instagram? I think it was Instagram. Here's how. You ask someone to write a review. Who? I don't know. Anybody. It doesn't have to be a Magic Special book reviewer. It would be nice. But most of those book review services have long-ass waiting lists. But arguably all you need is anyone, to review your work, and then take that review and put it somewhere. Post it somewhere that isn't just like a tweet or a Facebook post or an Instagram thing, like a single web page with the review on it that you can point people to in reference to possibly making a purchase. It would be great and magical and delightful if, book review blog, blah, 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 whomever they might be, loves your book and raves about it. But they might have a backlog of like 65 books, reviewing 2 books a month. You're going to be waiting a while. You don't want to wait a while. Have a human being review it. That's all you're getting when you go to famous book reviewer number 1. Anybody can write a review. It would help, it doesn't have to be hyper technical. It would help if it's, not relegated to some dust bunny filled corner of the internet, but reviews are reviews. Anybody can say something nice as long as it's not like, hey, person I've paid money to, say something nice, damn it. Or, or the girl gets it, or, like, I'll teach you, something like that. And don't have your mom do it as much as your mom possibly loves your work. It's your mom. She's biased. You want to find somebody who's either not biased or minimally biased, and then just have them review the book. When they say something nice in that review, use it in your marketing. Example, just so we're clear. person X reviews your book and says, man, this was really a page turner. I couldn't put this thing down. I was so sorry to see it done so soon. You turn around and put it in your marketing, a page turner, title of your book, something you can't, you won't believe how quickly you read it. Not my best marketing, but it's off the top of my head. But you take the positive material of the review, even if it's just, this book's good, because you could spin that, and then you use it. And then you know what you do next? You get somebody else to review it, and then another one after that, until you're content with the number of reviews you have. They don't all have to be like heavy academic treatises as to the nature of your writing. Who's going to give a shit? Like, if you sit down with a book and the first review you get when you Google it is like this academic dissertation of the nature of characters and theme, like, the average person who's going to try and possibly buy your book, do you think they're going to go read something academic to make up their mind? No, they're going to look for someone to, to say like, oh, this book was really fun, because that's what they're looking for. How do you get a review? You just ask. You just ask. Just ask. It really is that simple. Just ask. Great question. Good, smart question. On we go to the next. Question number 6. Is a self-insert character really all that bad? You know what a self-insert, right? You know what that is? Self-insert is where the author, usually the author, puts themselves in the material. It doesn't always have to be in a prime role, like a lead character. It's most frequently that. Sometimes they're the love interest, or sometimes they're the sidekick. But by and large, they're fairly front and center in the story. Is it bad to do that, though? No, question mark. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. And if you're putting yourself in the story in a way where you are not the protagonist, it's arguably less awkward. But you put yourself in your story by the nature of you writing your story. Your characters are expressions of how you feel, what you think, and what you say. Even if you're trying to avoid sounding like yourself in an effort to get a point across, or you're trying to write somebody who's the total opposite of you, you're still revealing something of yourself in that. Your characters are all little facets of you. Your world is all little facets of how you interpret the world. Your sense of conflict, your sense of plot are all interpretations of how you think and feel about conflicts and how you think and feel about story. You're already in this. Your fingerprints are already there. So the self-insert character where you more completely put yourself in, it's not bad, but you're already doing it. You're doubling down on a thing. Now, when done poorly, it's obvious. It's unskillful. It can be lazy. It can be a hack job. It can be messy, and it can really be more inelegant and inarticulate. If you're trying to tell a story of, I don't know, if you're trying to tell a story of a knight on a noble quest to, go slay the dragon and save the kingdom, right? And the knight is you on not just a metaphoric level, but it says what you say and it feels how you feel. And it's, got your name, let's say. Is that really bad? No, because you're detaching somewhat because you've created this fantasy world with a knight and a dragon and a kingdom. But if you're writing the story of you in your world, in your town, in your house, with your people, what are you doing? If at that point, why not just write something autobiographical or memoir? Self-insert can be a useful cathartic tool. You get to really work out your shit. But at the same time, if you're doing it because it's wish fulfillment, I wish, you see this in romance novels, for instance. An author often writes themselves either as the recipient of love or as the giver, the other party in the relationship. And it allows them to write this sort of perfected, fantastic, altered unreality where their partner is like super perfect or they're made super perfect and they're overwriting or disguising their shortcomings. Is it bad? I mean, the writing can be atrocious, like if it's poorly written and the craft sucks. Yeah. But is it really awful that all of a sudden the shy, mousy protagonist is really just the main character and that's really the author? And what the story is doing is the author trying to like work out her past boyfriend issues? It's not really the end of the world. The story can be good, but it's worth pointing out that what we give grief about, what we don't like about self-insert characters, is when this is obvious. When we can see the puppet strings, when we can see like the direct one-to-one author to character relationship. You disguise it a little bit, we're not going to notice, or we're not going to pay so much attention to it. But by and large, people don't. They want to get right to that wish fulfillment. They want to get right to that escapism. And it can be really a thing. I don't think it's bad, but I think it's something to keep an eye on. Have I ever come across people inserting me into their work? Yes. Sometimes by name, not first name, usually by my last name, just because it's a name and they need names. I've been put in work by description, like they'll make a character who looks like me, or a character who says the things I say in the way I say them. So a lot of cursing, I guess. But it's never been, to the best of my knowledge right now, it's never been malicious. In 25 years of this business, it's never been like, I'm going to make John the villain. I mean, you can. I'm not going to stop you. I'd be interested to see what you think my bad shit is, because you don't know the half of it. But yeah, it happens. Am I bothered by it? No. In the same way that I would expect you to write, not you specifically, but a person to write, somebody they went to school with, or somebody they know, or somebody from childhood, or a coworker, or a spouse, or something into a story. It's not bad. You write what you know to some degree. And sometimes that means you write the people you know. It's okay. I do my best to be flattered. To the best of my knowledge, I've shown up in a lot more fantasy than I have romance novels. Probably a good thing. And I've shown up in more high fantasy than anything else. That's okay. I don't mind. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever you want. It's all good. Any other questions while I get another mouthful of tea? Hang on, I gotta scroll. Okay, there we go. Cool. Other questions, issues, etc. So far, knock on wood, we're doing great. We're making good time. Everything seems stable. We're going to keep moving. If you're digging this, by the way, if you really think this is like fantastic, because now we're on multiple platforms and everything's smooth, please let me know. Say so in chat. Leave a comment on the YouTube video down below. If you really want to support more stuff like this, go hit the Patreon. Patreon.com/John Helps You Write Better. It's up in the upper corner over there. The tea tonight is just berries. It's just berries out of the box. It was a gift. I have like 60 something or 55 something tea bags left. So it's just iced tea fodder for the course of the week or so. It's good. I'm pleased. Yeah, it's good. This is the bee's knees on Twitch. It's all perfect. It's all I need, man. I'm glad you're digging it. I'm glad. All right. Shall we move on? We cool? Off we go. Next question. Question number 7. I got to warn you, we're going to get a little technical now. Look out, podcast people. Is there any way to make sure my character arc makes sense relative to my plot? Yes. This, by the way, is like hugely critical. Like big, put a gold star by this, critical. Your character arc has to move in the same general direction as your plot. What do I mean by that? As your plot advances, your character arc should more or less advance. Wait, don't freak out. Not at the same time, but over the course of the same story. Not, underline that a few times, not every plot advancement is a character arc advancement. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying since you're moving one, move the other as well. They can move at different rates. They can move at different times, but they both have to move. And understanding that one of the easiest ways to do this is to line up your character arc with your plot so that things do move at the same time, so that one triggers the other in some way, shape, or form, is one of the easiest ways to make sure you get this right. Just because it's easy does not mean it's bad. It does not mean you're a bad writer. It does not mean that you're, doing it wrong. It's fine. If this is what you want to do, great, do it. It works in like 99% of the movies you watch anyway. Might as well just keep doing what's working, right? So we want to make sure that as the plot advances, the arc advances, which means we need to know what the plot is and we need to know what the arc is. The arc, as the character grows and develops and overcomes obstacles, you want to make sure the plot provides those obstacles. So if we have a character who's learning to be more confident, and that's the end goal for their arc, they're going to end up being a more confident person, then putting some of those things that test confidence in the plot of the story. Maybe they have to go try and give a toast at a wedding, and that's our big climax. Or they have to win the spelling bee, or they have to win a debate or something, and they're not a great gifted public speaker. We have this character arc, and we line up challenges in the plot. We can also work the other way around. We have this plot where somebody's going to give a toast at the wedding, and they're a nervous public speaker, so as the plot challenges them, they evolve as a person. An example of this, a young kid from New Jersey learns karate and then learns to believe in himself and then kicks a blonde kid in the face. That's the plot. We got to go kick this blonde kid in the face. But the character arc is, I got to learn to believe in myself. I got to stand there and think I can't do it and then have a janitor go, yeah, you totally can. And then I'm going to kick a blonde kid in the face. Spoilers for the Karate Kid, I guess. But by lining these two things up and being able to draw little arrows, little points from, here's my character arc on one line, skip a few lines up or down, here's my plot, and being able to draw lines, this moment in my character arc is mirrored or reflected or is part of this part of the plot or vice versa, helps keep everything on track. Because if you ever want to train wreck a story, like absolutely red flag out the wazoo, bring it to a screeching halt, and really fuck shit up, detach your character arc from your plot entirely. Have the plot be, we've got to drive across country to win a race, but have your character arc be, I have to admit to my ex-wife that I want to be an accountant. Like, two very disparate things that have nothing to do with each other, that are not measured by accomplishment in the other, your story will fall flat fast. So lining it up and making sure that, okay, we have this thing in the plot, we have this scene, we have this challenge. Lining that up with, we have this character arc and it has these challenges or this conflict or this potential, whatever it might be. Now, you might have more in one thing and less in another, meaning like you might have, I'm going to make a number up, don't freak out about this. You might have a 10-part plot with 10 instances, 10 action beats, or a couple action beats, some dialogue beats, some like 10 installments, 10 points in a hierarchy. I'm making a staircase gesture, podcast people. 10 points in a hierarchy for your main plot because your detective has to solve a crime, gain clues, and figure out who the killer is. But your character arc might just be 2 or 3. That's fine. That's absolutely fine to have these two things be of different quantities. However, what we want to line up are the beginning points. We want to have them roughly start at the same time. Maybe we want to start the character arc a little sooner or start the plot a little sooner. Hint, start your character arc sooner. Makes life easier. But you want to have your stuff all start at roughly the beginning of the book. And beginning's a loose term, remember. and we want to have it develop over the course of the second act. But by the time we get to the climax, which is where we're going to, start ticking the boxes off, crossing the finish line for our plot, we want to make sure we're pretty close to done for our character arc. Now, are there cases where our character arc will finish well after our plot? Sure. Those moments in 80s comedies, for instance, where like we have that final FU to the preppy kid after the nerds win the race. Sure, that counts. That helps package up and wrap up the character arc, but that comes after the plot. But you mostly want to synchronize your beginnings, your middles, and your ends and draw them out as needed. Yeah, I know the character arc is going to be less complex than the plot. I get it. I get that the plot's going to be pretty straightforward and the character arc is going to have twists and turns. That's fine. But line up your endings, line up your beginnings, and it becomes a lot easier to map this across. So you can double check to make sure that while the plot's happening, the character arc isn't languishing. And while the character arc is happening, the plot hasn't like totally stalled out and we've frozen to think about like, well, we're just going to pause the plot for 20 chapters. Don't do that. That's not good. So we want to make sure that we've lined this thing up. So here's how you check it. Here's the actual narrative design tool. 2 columns side by side on a piece of paper. You can do this horizontally, but I like to do this vertically. It's a hell of a lot easier vertically. 1 column is going to be your character arc. 1 column is going to be your plot. Doesn't matter which one's which. I tend to do the character arc first and the plot second, but that's because I have small handwriting. First line, start. How does your character arc start? Skip a line, skip 2 lines, depending on how big you write. What's the next installment in the character arc? Skip 2 lines. What's the third? What's the fourth? Go all the way through the character arc. A happens, B happens, C happens, D happens. Whatever it is. Second column. Guess what we're going to do? Same damn thing for the plot. How does the plot start? What's the next plot thing? 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 All the way down till we're done the plot. And then figure out where things line up. And then try to get, this is why we do it vertically, try to get those 2 things on the same line. Even if you got to rewrite it like a couple times, that's fine. But make sure your endings for things are more or less in range with your endings for the other so that your character arc is not ending hella super early and your plot still has forever and a day to go, because that's going to make your character arc look very unimportant. And you certainly don't want to end the plot of your story like well short of the rest of the book, because what the hell are you going to talk about for the rest of the book? You want to try and line this up so that things start at the same time, because the story will gain momentum that way. It develops at roughly the same pace, more or less, so that things feel like, oh, we're getting into the story. I'm turning pages. I'm invested in the story. And then it ends at the same time, so it doesn't feel unsatisfying. We do it vertically. So we're lining. Where's my camera? So we've got our plot and we've got our story arc, and at least our endings match, but our middles are all of varying timings. Totally fine. It's going to work that way. If you ever want to detail this out, if you ever want to like really get into this, come talk to me. It's a lot easier to explain with your actual practical thing in front of you. I realized I should have made like a chart and just gone to a graphic at this point. I didn't, because I thought I'd be done answering this question by now. But by the time you get through this mapping of things, you're lining your arc up with the major points of your plot so the things sort of all roll together. That's the best way to make sure it works. Don't just eyeball it. Don't just say, well, this is scene 35 and I guess this is scene 4. Don't map it out. Write it down. Codify it. Even if you change it, at least have something on paper. It'll make a difference. All right? Great question. On we go. Question number 8. What do I do when I'm discouraged about yesterday's / last week's writing? You keep writing. Yesterday is yesterday. Last week is last week. If this is a question about how do I stop beating myself up because the other day I totally wrote some garbage, it's not yesterday anymore. Yeah, okay, you wrote some garbage the other day. Or you didn't write at all. Or you swore up and down you were going to, but then you didn't for whatever reason, whether you just got distracted or you got busy or you just didn't want to. Everybody catches a case of the I don't wannas every now and then. But if you're really upset, really bothered about the last stuff you did to the point where you're having trouble moving forward, the best thing to do is to do your best to move forward, because you can always go back. That's one of those things we tend to overlook when we're really frustrated with our work. You can always go back and rewrite it. That doesn't mean you have to rewrite the same thing 5 times before you go forward. Just go forward. Just go forward. Last week, I had a pretty good chat. This one I think is better. The questions are a little bit more detailed. I'm a bit more animated. I'm not like hyper nervous. My knees aren't doing a million miles an hour under the table. I think I'm doing better. How do I get over last week? How do I get over, I flubbed a line, or I said this or I said that? I just keep talking. How do you get over bad writing? You just keep writing. Just keep moving. Beating yourself up accomplishes what? Is anybody asking you to beat yourself up? Is that helping? Is that going to help you finish your work any faster? Is that going to get you any closer to your goal? Then why are you doing it? Now, see, I say that and somebody's like, yeah, well, I should at least recognize when I don't do a good job. Okay, you did. You done? You didn't do a good job. Are we supposed to be tracking our productivity? Have we suddenly become tech bros? Or is this just a matter of, man, it took me a while to get to this point. I'm glad I'm at this point. I'm going to keep moving. We can hang back and linger in the failure and tiptoe through the tulips of our horse shit all you want. I'm totally down for that. But I'd also like to see you move forward. I'd also like to see you put down the baggage and see what you come to next. Okay, last week sucked. Yesterday sucked. Cool. Today's today. What do you want to do today? That's the best and clearest way to focus you back on your writing. That's the important thing. If you're going to carry around the past as a way of talking down to yourself about how hard it is, or how not good you are at it, or how difficult this is, or how messy this is supposed to be, or how you're just proving everybody wrong when they say you're not good enough for this. Well, okay. I mean, it's a free country. It's a free world. You can do that. I don't know what it's accomplishing, though, because you keep saying it's important that you want to write this book. You keep saying it's important that you want to try this. You want to be published. You want to get away from your rat race job. You want to just give this a shot and see if you can make a go of this. How are you going to do that if you keep beating yourself up? How are you going to do that if you keep telling yourself you're not good enough? Yeah, you're going to have bad days. Okay. You've got a day job, right? You ever have a bad day at your day job? Really crap day, terrible meetings, boss yells at you, work computer goes down, things are just difficult and stressful. And then what do? You go home, it's a rough night, maybe you're a little grumpy. Then what? The next day comes. What do? You go back to work. Why would this be any different? Don't carry this stuff around, because all it's evidence of is not that you're a poor writer. It's just that you had a bad day. It's in the past. It's over there. Leave it over there. There's plenty of room. I cleaned the office. There's plenty of room over there. Stack your shit over there and let's move forward. I'm not saying deny yourself the hardship. I'm not saying ignore the valuable lessons of failure and frustration. I'm saying don't linger on it, because you don't need to, because no one's asking you to beat yourself up. We're just asking you to, we're all wanting and asking you to recognize, hey, that sucked. We're going to try again, and then try again. That's what we want to do. What an amazing question. On we go. Question 9. I'm currently writing a story with a bi or pan character, and I'm worried that writing this character will pressure me to come out. Parentheses, I'm not ready to come out. Can I get some encouragement? Here, you know what we'll do? We'll bring back the good advice harp. Hang on. Gentle advice. Nope, that's the wrong one, John. Gentle advice harp. All right. I want to point out that in framing this question, you could make an argument that you just came out a little bit. It's okay. Everybody comes out when they're most comfortable and ready. No one should be forced, and we should not force other people to come out. That's just not cool. Just because you wrote a character that is or isn't or does or doesn't identify a certain way does not directly mean you have to do the same things. especially if your character is particularly fantastic and not real. Like if you're writing the story about I'll make something up, a bisexual medieval assassin, and you yourself are a bisexual, you don't have to come out just because your character does. You can. And I hope when you do, you're accepted and loved for who you are because you're great. But by and large, you're under no obligation to base your actions on what the fantastic actions of your made-up people do. The pressure you're feeling isn't about the character. It's about the coming out in the first place. And that's a separate discussion for a separate day. That's a separate thing. Just because you write a character does not compel you, urge you, or require you to do anything you're not comfortable doing. If you write a character who's, let's not use coming out, let's use a character who's going to do something, like a character who's going to propose to another character, that does not mean you have to go propose to your loved one, right? We wouldn't say a character who's going to go rob a bank in the next chapter means you have to go rob a bank in the next hour. That's not how that works. So why would this be any different? There's enough pressure on people to make a big deal or make a show or have some kind of coming out experience of a certain way, caliber, shape. There's enough pressure with that. You don't, nobody benefits from that. You come out when you're ready. You come out when you're comfortable, and you come out to whom you're comfortable in whatever means, way, shape, or form, if ever. You're under no obligation to ever do it. That's up to you. You do what you want. That's okay. You are still totally a valid person no matter what, right? And, it's hard. No one's saying it's hard. But what happens and what can be useful is that because you're in control of this and you make up this stuff, you can play in that space and essentially, what we do in other fields is like a soft rollout. You practice. You write a fantastic version of it, and then you carry that confidence, because your brain doesn't tell the difference. You carry that confidence forward to actually trying. It's okay. You're under no pressure to do that. Whether you come out tomorrow, come out next year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, on your deathbed, posthumously, whatever. That's up to you. You do it when you're comfortable. Your character is your character. They're a different made-up being in some part of your brain. Let them, you're in charge of that. So let them be a thing in your imagination, and you do you. It's okay. It's hard. But you're going to be okay. Great question. Thank you so much for asking it. Thank you for the courage to ask it. But it's going to be okay. Also, side note, if the character's out already, you could just skip that step and just be out. It doesn't have to be this big thing for a made-up character, because I don't know if you know this, you made up the character. So don't pressure yourself to do a thing through your art. Let your art be the tool that helps you reach or explore or think or see whatever you need to. But it doesn't have to be more than that. It's still, at the end of the day, just a story you're writing. Okay? Great question. Yeah, that was a hugely relatable question. That was fantastic. I really, really liked that one. Yes, writing about queer characters is a way to totally explore coming out or safely explore the ideas or the concepts without actually doing it. I'm still going to argue that you're actually doing it by doing it at all, but hey, that's me. But yeah, it's a great question. I love that question. I was super excited all day. I didn't want to do it like really early in the day. Fun fact, the order for these things is entirely pretty random. I decided on the day I make the graphics. So it's just whatever day I write them down. That question was almost like question 2. And then I realized if I do that early, everybody's going to dip out after that question and not hang out for the rest. So let's bury it a little deeper. There's my terrible broadcasting trick. Thanks, man. I'm glad you enjoyed the answer. It was a great question. I hope the person who asked it is comforted by it, because that's important to me. I'm sure they'll tell me when they hear this. All right. Any other questions from anybody in chat? About anything. It does not have to be heavy and deep. We've done some heavy and deep, and that's fine if you want to go that way. I'm totally down for it whenever. But if you have anything, fire away. My brain and my tools are at your disposal. I'm going to keep staying hydrated. Where are my YouTube people at? You guys are okay? You're good with this? The Twitch people are down. That's cool. I just want to make sure the YouTube people are having an all right experience with this. All right. Shall we march? Let's go. Where are we? Question 10. Why is there a delay between UK and US release dates and times? Okay. In the before times. Hang on. Where do you put an editor's name in a published book? Usually about 2 pages in when you do like the acknowledgments page. Like to attribute credit. Yeah, you do it on the acknowledgments page or on what's called the author identification page. You know, the page where you say you wrote it. Usually you skip down a few lines and say edited by. The same place you would do the cover. You know, covered by so-and-so, edited by so-and-so, written by me. Or you put, you know, depending on how you want to give credit, if you want to be like, thanks, editor, you made my work not suck. You do it in the acknowledgments page, or you do it in the dedication. Prior to the start of the manuscript, really anywhere is fine. You can, I mean, the old-fashioned way used to be you put it all the way at the end of the book. That still happens sometimes. Like when you do an audio book, they put that, you know, the audio engineer and all that, they put that at the end, you know, like credits in a movie. Really, beginning or ending is totally fine. Anywhere in there is cool. All right? Great question. Let's go over here, though. We're going to talk economics and logistics. Ooh. Why is there a delay between UK and US release dates and times? So in the before times, that's before pandemic, before that boat got stuck in the canal, like a decade earlier, there was a great level of synchronicity between US and UK releases. Things were relatively like the same day or within, 6 or 7 hours. Or it was relatively synchronized, like 5 p.m., no matter where you were, the book went out. Part of that was arranged because of marketing departments. Part of that was arranged to synchronize marketing so that the campaign was slightly easier to roll out. It was just wherever it was 5 o'clock, boom, press the button and do it. Totally fine. Where the delays came in part with physical manufacture of books, because books that are shipped to the UK from let's say your Chinese publisher, travel a different route at a different time than books coming from China to the US. Because boats, because planes, because shipping, because climate change, because fuel prices, because customs. There's a ton of logistical reasons as to why things take as long as they take to get from here to there. And you can see this the minute you order something from some store and you get the tracking data, and then you realize there's like 7 stops as your package goes from this facility in this warehouse to this one, to this one, to this one, till it's finally on a truck and finally at your front door. Same process is true for the UK and the US. It used to be synchronized when marketing was in charge of things, and then all of a sudden, publishing companies in particular were like, "Hey, when we leave marketing to be in charge of this, it costs us money, and we're capitalist pigs. We don't like spending money, so we're going to take that control away from our marketing department because those guys want to spend money all the time. We have an obligation to our shareholders." Whatever the hell that means. So we're not interested in spending a lot of money, so we're going to release things when we're good and goddamn ready on our own times. And they separated. They broke that synchronicity, knowing that in certain markets, we can leverage certain sales to greater effect. Things in the US sell differently now than they do in the UK. UK versions of books sell differently than their US counterparts. You see this in YA fiction in particular. Just because there's somebody in there writing a U with all the, color, armor, that harbor, that kind of thing, that's not the reason why things sell differently. It's because they're marketed differently, because they're priced differently, because depending on where they're shipped from, it affects their print cost, which affects their sales cost. And in order to offset that, in order to individually package here's our UK marketing strategy versus here's our US marketing strategy, they decided rather than do it all at once and just have a marketing strategy, they could, in theory, make more money by having separate strategies that would maximize effect, as your bullshit term, so that we could do the best American job, the best Canadian job, the best UK job, the best Oceania job possible. Is it accurate? No. But they do it anyway. Also, it's convenient. It requires, we can offset shipping and printing costs, because if it's rolling out at different times, and I don't just mean like over a 24-hour period, like the reason you have to wait an extra week for a film to come overseas is so that they can push extra marketing, or so that they can defray costs, or so that they can arrange certain things. It's just a way of financial control. It is not a quality or a measure or anything. It's a money thing. 'Cause capitalism. Excellent question. Here we go. I don't know why this graphic is so much larger. It's just the way I laid it out. Question 11. What do you think about the top 10X, fill in the blank, to avoid in writing listicles or other positive/negative YouTube writing advice? Oh boy. Where's my bell? Because this could get ranty. I'm looking to see where my bell's at. Hang on a minute. Bear with me. I can't find my bell. I don't remember where I put it. I had it the other day. Anyway, rant incoming. Listicles, particularly the positive negatives, do this, don't do this, top 10 of this, top 10 of that. That is the lowest hanging, easiest shit-ass content you can find in any field. Whether we're talking about top 10 budget pieces of gear, or we're talking about 10 bad subplots to not have in your book, or whether we're talking about 10 favorite add-ons for your favorite thingamajig, that's the easiest content humanly possible. That stuff's real low effort. And for people who really want to maximize the algorithm, as I push my glasses up on my nose, they want to maximize their algorithm under the auspices of possibly maximizing the attention and therefore maximizing the money they make off people. Low-hanging fruit is a great way to do that, because you can just vomit that shit out there. And if they just keep doing that, two things happen. One, they'll always have something to talk about, because you can always generate more garbage filler content. And two, you never have to try. You never have to actually have a thought in your head. You never actually have to really push yourself at all, because you can always just grab for the easiest thing possible. Because you're avoiding challenge, because you're avoiding effort, because you're avoiding really having a thought or having to follow through with anything, you don't have to really stress so much. Yeah, you can still stress about the content or the views or the clicks or the thises or the that's, but it's nowhere the same as having the courage and the intelligence to actually put yourself out there and, I don't know, talk for 2 hours or an hour and something minutes about writing advice every week. That's the difference. A listicle's really easy. It's sloppy. It can be garbage and people will still click it because it's somewhere in the vague reason or region of the space that we want to be in. Well, it's writing advice, I guess, in the same way that if I go to the clearance rack, I'm still buying stuff from a store, I guess. Or if I buy like the generic Cocoa Puffs, I'm still eating Cocoa Puffs, kinda. But we all know the generic Cocoa Puffs don't taste the same as the regular Cocoa Puffs. There's only like 2 generic cereals that taste better than the original. But we have generic cereals because we have generic cereals. If this is the content you want, if this is the best way for you to digest it and get information because you don't want to push yourself, you don't want to go past that, great. There's a bajillion boring-ass people not trying nearly hard enough to put out low-effort content. Enjoy. Swim in that. Enjoy their link spam and vomit of yawn, stretch, uninspired ideas. But always understand that the real stuff that's going to push, challenge, and educate you is going to take a little bit of thought. It's going to take a little bit of work. It's not easy. There's a difference between what I do for 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 45 seconds versus that 12-minute thing about 10 bad character traits. Also, why does that matter? The danger or problem with writing advice like that is that because it's never challenging, it never really has to explain itself. It could just be a thing. Here's 10 items. Here's 10 paper clips. Here's 10 socks. Here's 10 pictures of my cat. Okay. You don't really have to have any thought. I don't really have to put in any thought in this. And we can all just sort of consume that space and consume that time, then move on with our day. There's nothing wrong with writing advice on the internet. I'm literally doing it right now. But to boil everything down to 10 simple items that are positive and negative, you're missing the point, because writing advice goes out to writers, and writers are writing a lot of things, and it might be easy and it might build you a little audience and all golly gee, that's swell. But are you really helping people write better? Are you really making a difference with your top 10 bad climax notes or 25 terrible names in Regency romance? Like, does that help anybody? How is that any different than the inane questions in your hashtag writing community? It just doesn't do that. Like, why how is that any different? Really, what are you doing? I'll go toe to toe with any advice giver happily. You want to put me in Writing Thunderdome? Let's go. I like my odds. But hey, those people have huge ass audiences. They're monetized. They have all kinds of bells and whistles. Why? Because look at the route they took to get there. And then look at the work I do and the route I take. And as you point out in chat, why write a listicle when you can just say writing coaches hate this one writing trick and get all the clicks? That's right. Why do the work when there's an easier way to get the end result? What does that say about the work? What does that say about your work ethic? Is it more important that you get the end result, or is it more important that you did a good job getting there and that you learned something and that you're able to do it again and again and again over and over without actually repeating yourself or boring people? Because the biggest problem with top 10 who's a what's a thingamajigs, eventually you run out. How many times are we going to have 10 things? I don't even have 10 questions. I had 12. I went to 13. It's okay. But low, easy content satisfies a certain group of people. And if that's your people, awesome. Good for you. I hope you're successful. Enjoy your money. I'm very envious. I'm starving to death. But if you're trying to actually be somebody out here doing the thing, hanging your shingle up, saying, hey, I want to help you write better. Why aren't you? I would love to know. Because I know you're going to watch this person who writes top 10 articles because you've got a Google alert for your name. You said as much in one of your videos. I know. So let's have a chat. Let's see what's up. Okay? Great question. Love it so much. On we go. Question number 12. How do you handle a sex scene in a not romance book? Well, I don't know how to tell you this. Pretty much the same way you handle it in a romance book. Because not all sex scenes are mega graphic. Some sex scenes in some romance novels are graphic. You get descriptions of physical body parts, doing all kinds of physical activities with all kinds of physical responses. With like either euphemistic language or medical level jargon or just casual vocabulary. That's fine. Everybody handles that differently. Some people, mix and match a little bit of euphemism, a little bit of common parlance. Maybe every once in a while he's a medical terminology. Maybe it's just all one or the other. That's fine. But it doesn't always and only have to be this like hyper visual or hyper, I want to say accurate, because that's probably the clearest word for what I mean. You don't have to detail every second, to put a bit of a clarity to this. We don't have to know every thrust. In a not romance book, even in a romance novel, there's not an expectation for your sex scenes to be like that. Some romance novels, the sex scenes are, yep, we made love, period, done, end of the chapter, on we go. Some people aren't even that. Some people, it's just, I opened my bedroom door and let him in by the hand, close the bedroom door, open the next chapter, it's over. Not everybody's writing, the modern Kama Sutra or like a porno how-to kind of thing. And you don't have to either in your non-romance book. If you want to get into it and you want to detail things and describe things and talk about how bodies are moving and who's doing what, where, with what thing, you totally can. That is not exclusive or limited to romance novels. If you're writing a sci-fi novel and two characters like totally get it on and you want to detail it, go for it. Make yourself happy. Just be accurate with it. Just do a good job of putting that picture in the reader's head. Just because it's not a romance novel doesn't mean you have to do like, they fucked, period, next sentence, and then move on. You can detail it if you want. Romance doesn't own the sex scene. They're known for them. They have more of them than any other genre, usually, but not always. But you can handle it however you want. If you're interested in diving deep and getting into it, go for it. If you just want to hand wave it and shortcut it and do what is generally referred to as a fade to black, go for it. If you want to fall somewhere in the middle where maybe you describe some kissing or, the foreplay, but then you skip the sex act, that's fine too. You're the author. Whatever you write is going to be okay. Editorially, what you're looking for is just some kind of consistency of imagery. If you're trying to put a picture in my head at a certain level of detail, make sure you do so. If you're just trying to say it happened and we're moving on because it's not that big a deal how it happened, but it's a bigger deal that it happened, you write that and move on. There's no like super template that says, oh, you're writing fantasy, it has to go this way. Or, oh, you're writing, cyberpunk, it goes like this. Nope. You write whatever kind of sex scene, love making scene, fucking scene, humping scene, whatever you want to write, you write. Totally okay. Great question. Nice technical question. Shall we move on? Oh my God. This is going to get a mouthful of tea. There's just a lot of words here. Hang on. Question 13. How am I supposed to find time to do a newsletter and write and market and outline and have a life and relax and self-care and stay up on trends and do the billion other things I'm told to do as a single parent and writer? Whoa, I'm exhausted just going through that. Here we go. Well, you're not. You're not. You're not supposed to find time to do everything. The system is rigged against you. The system, capitalism, is designed to have you fail and feel bad about your failures so you double down and fail more. It's not built for success. And what it's going to do is impress on you this idea, this image, this notion that you have to do all these things because without them you will not succeed. And that's just not true. It's a lie. It's a lie because they're selling something. Either they're selling you the products to do those things, or they're selling your attention, or they're selling your data, or they're selling your time, or they're just selling you a lie so that you perpetuate it and exhaust yourself. You don't have to do all those things. On your list right there, there's 2, maybe 3 things you have to do. One of them is write. And the other one is self-care. We can maybe argue that having a life is also in there, depending on how you're defining having a life. But of all those things, you only need to do 2 because 1, you're a writer, so you have to write. And 2, you're a human, so you have to have some self-care. Everything else is optional. You don't have to have a newsletter. You can sell your books just fine without a newsletter. We'd been doing it prior to the newsletter for centuries. You can outsource your marketing, or your marketing can be small. You can market just with one single social media platform. Will it be the big, splashy, flashy thing that somebody else is doing? No, but it still counts. Remember, capitalism wants you to be involved and engaged at 10 million levels at 10,000 times unceasingly. And the minute you deviate because of exhaustion or tiredness or money or this or that, you failed. That's what they want you to think. They want you pushing beyond the point of exhaustion because the system is rigged against you. You are a commodity to them. You're not a producer of art. You're not an artist. You're not even a human. You are a being capable of producing commercial transactions. So they don't want you to do one thing. They want you to do 10 things poorly. Yes, you do have to outline. It's not a requirement, but it's super going to make a difference for how you write. Have a life? That's up to you. You should have one. It would really help. And relaxing goes with that. And self-care is just part of being a human. You definitely need that, hydrate, rest, try to get some sleep, try to do things that help energize and re-nourish you. Literally consuming material, food, versus literally consuming entertainment that gives your brain some chemicals. Those are all good things. For staying up on trends, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Traditional publishing wants to tell you that knowing your trends are the most important thing in the world. Do you know why? Because there is an entire middleman in this bullshit that cares about trends. Those are pimps. Those are agents. If you wonder why every time I talk about agents, I call them pimps, it's because they're exploiting your labor and making money off your effort without doing any work themselves. They put you out on the corner, they take 10% of your money, and then we swear they're important. Why? Because they're a pimp. So in this exploitation, they're going to tell you that trends are most important because it's by the trends that the pimp does anything. Because you want to be popular, don't you? You want to be good enough, don't you? Watch how the pimp leverages your sense of insecurity. Yeah, that's a trend. They're going to tell you that by not following trends, you're going to do boring things or bad things. No, you're not. You're just telling a story. Here's an example. This is a very simple example. I love using this example. In the mid-1970s, there weren't really any sci-fi stories. There was Star Trek, but that was over there. You know what happened in the mid-70s? Star Wars. At no point was Star Wars a trend. Well, I mean, it is now, but it wasn't back then because everybody in the 70s was doing gritty crime and gritty realistic stories. And then here comes George Lucas with his space opera B movie. What happened? It's like $1 billion mega super franchise now. Trends are nice, and it's great to know them, and it's delightful to talk about them. But ultimately, when it comes to you and your story, you don't have to know what the trend is. Do you know what the trends were 3 years ago? Off the top of your head, you know what was trendy 3 years ago? Do you know what was trendy last month? Does that in some way affect your life so radically and so negatively that you're paralyzed right now? No. By the way, 3 years ago, it was more pandemic stuff and illness stuff and quarantine stuff and political tension stuff. Last month, it was commerce and desperation. Why? Because commerce and desperation always seems to fall around October, November, just the way things are. But knowing that doesn't help you finish chapter 10. Knowing that doesn't help you get your kid out the door to go to school. Knowing that doesn't help you feed your family. It's just something to know the same way I know that the end of a shoelace is called an aglet. It's a nice detail, but it gets us nowhere. You don't have to do all these things. You get to choose what you do. Right? Take care of yourself. Take care of those around you. Produce more love than anything else. Just stay alive. Take care of yourself. You're worth that. So if that means your writing days per week is like 2 as opposed to 5, great. If it's 1 every 2 weeks, great. Why? Because there's all this other shit going on and you're allowed to address it. Now, I know you're going to feel guilty. You're going to be, everybody else is doing this and they seem to be succeeding faster than you and you got this going on and that. I know. But it doesn't ultimately matter. Because when they're done their draft, and when you're done your draft, you're going to end up doing the same thing, which is trying to sell your draft. And they're going to sell theirs, and you're going to sell yours. And maybe they'll sell more than that and less of yours or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're worse than they are. Excuse me. What it means is that this way you're doing it just needs more work. Not because you're a failure. It's like I'm trying to do X, but you're using the wrong technique. You just take more time. You don't have to do everything. I know you're going to feel guilty, but I'm telling you, as a professional, when I talk to a, hang on, mouthful of tea, needed that. When I talk to a writer who's pulling themselves in 25 different directions, do you know why they tell me they feel they have to do that? Because apparently the combination of those 25 efforts leads them to their goal. It doesn't. It doesn't. What's their goal? To finish their draft, to get their book published. How the hell, knowing that, how does the trends of last summer help you get published today? I'm looking for an answer. I'm not a dumb person. I have no idea. I don't know. Take care of yourself, first and foremost. Take care of the people around you who depend on you, second most. You can't help them without helping yourself. That doesn't make you greedy. That doesn't make you selfish. That doesn't make you arrogant. You have to be able to take care of them, which means you got to take care of yourself, right? Writing is your art. Writing is your mouthpiece. Writing is your way to view the world, okay? It can be messy. It can be infrequent. It doesn't matter how quickly you did it. It doesn't matter if you've done it faster or slower relative to somebody else. It just matters that you do it by the time you're dead. Were you planning on dying this week? Were you planning on dying tomorrow? Then why are you worried about rushing? Do the best you can any and every given day, because any and every day there are different challenges that we face, whether that's literally what goes on outside our door, or whether that what happens in our head, or what happens on the screen, or what happens wherever. These are all different challenges we have to contend with. And some days that means we're going to be inspired to write, and other days we're going to be frustrated by writing, and other days we're going to pull teeth to get the words out. And at no point does that make any of the words bad. And at no point does that make you bad. And you're not wrong for feeling all this pressure and all this stress. The system is designed to do that. You don't have to give in. It's okay if you mess this stuff up. I had a newsletter for years that just sat there, and I've only recently turned it around. It took some time. It was embarrassing, but I was able to do it. There's plenty of stuff on this list I don't do. Ask around. That doesn't make me a bad person. I'm just bad at some of this stuff. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, I'm doing what I want to do to get me closer to my goal. So you out there, single parent and writer, according to this question, what's your goal? What's your goal? And are you doing things regularly to get you to that goal? Not how many things, not all the things, not even all the things regularly. Are you doing anything? One thing, two things, five things, whatever. Are you just making progress to your goal? That's what matters. Now, that's not a classy, glamorous commodity answer, but it's a true answer. And I'm always going to give you the truth. The system doesn't want you to win. So stop playing the game. We do enough dealing with capitalism and its nonsense just to get through the day. You don't have to sacrifice your art in order to do that. Just focus on the writing, okay? Just focus on getting your stuff done. Everything else will work itself out. And when you're ready to move to the next thing, you'll have the free space to do that. You don't have to start your newsletter today. Not if your draft's not done. There's nothing to newsletter about. If you're still outlining, you definitely don't have to worry about marketing. You've got nothing to market. Focus on one step at a time. Do that. Go to the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Don't worry about what other people are doing. They're on their own path, doing their own thing towards their own goals. You focus on you, one step at a time, and it's going to be okay. And you're going to fuck shit up. It's going to be a mess. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss opportunities. It's going to feel like you're failing. You're not. Relative to other people, you're just at a different pace, doing different stuff with different whatevers. And that's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to be okay. All right? You're going to be all right. Just one step at a time. Okay? Cool. Are there, as we jump back, any other questions from anybody else? Or shall we get out of here? Oh, man. That was a lot of talking. Wow. I should have had more water than that. I apologize for coughing in the middle of that. Questions, issues, etc.? Else we will head on out and go to the outro. What's the best way to approach a draft that's gone out of control to the point where you're even lost reading it? Is it best to nuke it from orbit and start from scratch? No, it is not best to nuke from orbit. I understand the want, but it is super not necessary to nuke from orbit. That's an option, but it's not our primary option. The best thing you can do to fix that draft is to identify the parts and pieces where it is under control, and then figure out the point where it suddenly goes out of control, like the first point, the first moment it goes like hard off the course, right? And then cut it. Take the stuff that works, paste it into a new document. The stuff that doesn't work, leave in the original document, and then you have a choice. Either go back to the stuff that works in a new file and proceed from there, or go to the stuff that doesn't work, the stuff that you've cut out the good stuff, so now we're left with the mess, and then wrestle the mess under control. Yeah, if neither of those two things work, nuke and start over. But don't let that be the first step. As in so many other things, nuking from orbit is a pretty broad last resort. You can't unnuke a thing. So before we do that, let's exhaust our other options. Either take the stuff that works and go forward with it and get things back on track, or excise and remove and hold to the side the good stuff and just work with the messy stuff. You're going to learn something either way. And if both of those still suck, nuke and I'll hand you a blank page myself. That's how you get it under control. Great question. Nice technical happy question. Love it so much. Any others? Else we will go to the outro. Mouthful of water first. Delightful. We're going to the outro. What an amazing experience we just had. 2 platforms, same time, no muss, no fuss, no failures, no problems. I'm thrilled. That was great. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions. Thank you so much for your attendance. It means the world to me. If you liked this, if you enjoyed this, the 2 best things you can do are 1, tell another human being. It really does mean the world to me. 2, if you want to support this and have more things like this happen, like, hey, if you want to do this more than once a week, patreon.com/John helps you write better. $2 a month makes all the difference, and I'll do this twice a week if there's enough interest in it. I'd be happy to. $2 a month. Let's go. The next time I'm here, the next time I'm in your ears and in your face is December the 7th. The first Wednesday of December. I'll be right back here with even more questions on 2 platforms, YouTube and Twitch. I want to thank everybody for being here. All power to all people. Take care of yourselves. I love you. You're amazing. Be good to each other. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. See ya! Now I get to figure out how to close this thing. That'll be exciting. Here we go. See ya!